Moriarty, our very administrator from the Ohio Alliance for the Arts and Education, has just parked in the Brewery District. That is quite a walk, huh?
No, I don't know actually.
Was Queen in with you then?
No, but with parking, I'm not sure.
Oh, let's see, how far? No. How is this? This sounds a little echoey. Does it sound echoey? Yes. It's better. Well, come, sit down. Welcome to you. Well, we're having our own fest, are we not? That we were all able to get here. Our cars, I just heard a couple of miracle parking places, and I'm sorry that yours are such a distance, huh? Megan has gathered together for us artists to celebrate this wonderful Ohio Alliance, and artists who are not only part of a community here, but are educating others. So it's an ongoing sharing, and it's exciting. And I'm being taught too, because I was looking on the website. Let's show it, okay? And note, if you can see it, the combination of color that I found in one of her works. So, I said to Shelby, I'm going to put a few things together. And I matched the color. She said, yes, I accept. And that is truly one of the celebrations that Shelby is about. Color, conversation, fun, and community. And so as each of you tells your story with the theme of celebrating the city, you call Columbus a beautiful city. Were you born here?
Absolutely.
You were absolutely born. That's wonderful. Because sometimes it would take an outsider to say, you know what, you've got a pretty wonderful city. But we need to be told that. We do have a beautiful city. So, let us say, Megan, as you have brought these beautiful artists to us, I'm going to have you introduce them, and then I will dovetail back on what I've read about. And then each of you can take your works and present them. They're all here, right? Good. Transported because the Root Fest people are on the third floor, where this exhibit was. And so that's okay. We're not displaced. We're just celebrating, huh? By bringing the art along with us. All right, Megan.
All right, thank you. So like Ellen said, we are from the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education, and we have after-school arts programs around the city, around Franklin County. We have 5 sites, mostly in settlement houses, and these are our teaching artists from our sites. So in the summer, it's not an after-school program, it's more of a morning program or a midday program. So we still go on in the summer even though school is not in session. So today we have with us Shelby Harris, and Shelby is our teaching artist at Windsor STEM Elementary, which is actually the after-school program of St. Stephen's Settlement House. So it's kind of relocated to Windsor this year. But that is our St. Stephen's location for the school year. In the summer, we are back in St. Stephen's. That's where Wendy Kendrick is for the summer, doing the summer program. And then we have Dwight Brown, who is at Central Community House out on East Main Street. And we have Malik here too, right?
He's with us.
Oh. So Malik is our apprentice artist. So in addition to having our 5 teaching artists, we have 5 apprentice artists who are younger, age 16 to 22, who also come to the sites 3 days a week, help the teaching artists, and are really they work as a team. Really, it's a partnership to make this program happen. It's too hard with one person, I would say, usually. So anyway, I'm the administrator. So I'm not teaching at this point. I did teach this morning, so excuse my clean hands. That's just how I look sometimes. So anyway, I'm going to let each artist explain their work and their site and what's been going on at their program. All right, Shelby.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelby Hirschberg. Do I get over?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Whatever help you need to bring it forward.
Okay, so like she said, I've been the teaching artist for St. Stephen's Community House, and the year before we were at St. Stephen's, this year we got relocated to Windsor STEM Academy, which put a spin on things because I had all Windsor Academy kids. And usually in the after-school program at St. Stephen's, I had kids from different schools. So it was really actually pretty fun for me this year to have the same kids from the same school in this after-school program, but I also had like 60 kids on the roster. So to do to do a collaborative and bring 60 kids together was pretty fun for me. I let the kids decide what we were going to do. I knew I wanted to do a mural. I have a slight passion for collaborative muraling, and we discussed basically different things about heritage and what that meant for them. And we talked about what they knew and people that they were familiar with. So you would see names under inventors that we discussed, like George Washington Carver, Elijah Pierce. So we talked about these in discussions, and then I allowed them creative freedom to paint those things into the mural. I genuinely didn't touch this mural until the end because they colored the base coat. They put on the collaging and they decoupaged and decided to do, how they did it. If you look at it, you'll see for the babies, we did just some freestyle watercoloring, and then I made them rip it all up, which was really interesting that day because they were having a problem disconnecting from what they thought was this beautiful masterpiece. I'm like, no, we're going to rip it up and use it as background pieces, and they just all looked at it. And they're 5 and 6 years old, so that's what this is. And then we also did a project, so this was a series of projects that's in this. So we did a project with the first and second graders with the peace doves. I'm all about peace all the time. And so we talked about that. So these are all their different peace doves that they cut out and decoupaged into it. And so basically we just talked about those things. I let them paint into it. So that's what this one is. And this is basically the kids of Windsor STEM Academy. And as you can see, it's kind of this timeline of events. So we talked about the foundations of Africa and what that meant to us. We talked about the Great Migration and things like that. We talked about how there were inventors and musicians and pioneers that create this harmonious world that we live in today. So it's an abstract piece, of course, but it also, you can see their creative freedom that they got to do. And they came up with We Are the World. That's not me. I couldn't believe, I asked myself, have you guys heard of the song We Are the World? Not one of them had heard of this We Are the World song, so I played it for them. And so we had a great time piecing this together. This is Windsor STEM Academy. Okay, so another thing that wasn't said is I do Central Community House middle schoolers on Thursdays. So this one is a cardboard mural, and each child had a piece of cardboard, and I said to them, make something that is representative to something you see in the community. I got a lot of dollar stores, I got a lot of houses and churches and things. So when it was all said and done, we cut them out and we pieced together our version of the community. But what we did was make sure that we included Central Community House. This is the Central Community House building. as the centerpiece because that is their center for community. So this was called Community Happens Here. So, yeah.
Don't you think it's so nice when you see very young people connecting with the neighborhood and art?
Absolutely.
How do you feel basically seeing that?
I feel, for one, I get a really good kick out of working with the Central Middle Schoolers because I grew up in that neighborhood as well. So I see them and I see myself. And the kids of today are so different as far as they know more than I did when I was their age.
I think they know more, but they're getting it all on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
They're not using their brains and their talent, but they figure everything is on the screen.
Absolutely.
And I have noticed a lot, they'll walk in the building and not even see the art. They're just, you know, yeah, you know, at least you're getting them out and putting pride back in the neighborhood and the color and seeing them do the art and seeing their faces, you know.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially this particular group of middle school kids. They're very sharp and they're dealing with real world things when they go home. And to pull them out and say, let's create a community of our own of things that we see. I asked them originally if they wanted to do something like this, and they were like, let's do it out of cardboard. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So that was their idea. But you can see, you know, there's church and these different things. So we just pieced it together and made our version of a little small community.
Can you talk a little bit more, because you said one sentence about you got a lot of dollar stores and church. Can you talk about more like what the kids, when you said go out to the community and bring that back? And then did you have a conversation about that, or did you just kind of take what they did and then I'm just kind of
Right.
process?
So every time we would come to class, we had continued conversation about things that we were seeing. So like the first week, there were several, like you see, there was a Save a Lot in the dollar store, and I'm looking at these things and I'm saying to myself, hey you guys, what else do we see in our community other than stores? You know? So then that stretched them. And one little girl said, I go to the dance theater down the street. And I said, well, you need to make the dance studio. You know, and I started to try to push them, and another little girl said, have you seen the mural on Main Street down? And it says, they tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. And I said, yeah, I did see that mural. And she was like, well, I wanted to say this. And she was like, but I can't paint it with a paintbrush. Like, I can't say it. I said, well, finish it, complete it, and I'll help you paint the words on there. Things like that, you know. The things that were standing out to them are what you see here. So that mural stood out to them. This dance studio on Main Street stood out to them. Banks and churches. I thought it was really cool to see some of these cars in there, that they took the time to make sure that we were adding housing. And yeah, so I think we could have made an even bigger cardboard mural. Like it just started to, okay, you know, there's only maybe in my middle school class, maybe 8 students on the roster. So they did this between the 8 of them. And yep, Community Happens Here. That's what that one's called.
So you have to come back and show us what you do next. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Wendy. I was reading on your website. Quite a bit of my art deals with a special bond that women enjoy with one another. The bond we share as mothers, daughters, sisters, grandmothers, nieces, neighbors, sister friends. But as you not only include us women, men, you too are included in this wonderful spirit of joy and love and community. Wow. Where did this come from, Wendy?
It came from,
Now talk into that microphone.
for me, it came from years of spending summers with my grandmother in Kentucky.
Wow.
And
Nice and loud here. Did everybody hear that? years of spending time in Kentucky with her grandmother.
And coming up as a kid, that's where we got to go for the summertime. And when we would go to visit, it was a case that my grandmother and one of my aunts lived together. I had another aunt that lived right around the corner, and then my great-grandmother lived right up the street. So for us back in that time, we could easily walk to all of those homes by ourselves. So we didn't need anyone to accompany us, and so it was so much fun to kind of just hop, skip from one house to the other, because you always were picking up a treat from this one and that one. So it was always good. So yes, and that has been a great part of the influence as I've moved along as an artist.
So tell us, share with us.
So this
your
summer,
art.
I have the pleasure of filling in and subbing for Shelby at St. Stephen's. And I'm an Art in the House alum, I say, because I worked with the program for many years, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years, way back. And I left and taught it at other facilities and different types of teaching roles over a period of time. So it's really fun to come back. What's really interesting is coming back and seeing some of the students I had in Art in the House that are about 6 feet tall now. And the young ladies, and they're working the reception desk, they're working in the kitchen, they're making sure that they're out serving the other students, which is really good. It is really good because it's a continuum. And that part is something I think that always made St. Stephen's very special for me, because I always felt such a family closeness when I worked there. Not only with the students that I serve, but also with the staff. So to come back and still see some of the same staff, and it's like I didn't leave. Everybody's like, hey, Miss Wendy, how you doing? I was like, okay, good, how are you? So that's a good thing. That's a good thing, but particularly to have kids come up and say, hey, Miss Wendy, I remember you. Yeah, so it's been fun. But interesting.
Carrying on the spirit of your grandmother.
Yes.
For sure.
Carrying
That's
it
beautiful.
on. So interestingly enough, when Shelby was talking about community, one of the things that I had students working on this summer, because I work in my personal work a lot in fabric, textile work. And so we talked about Amina Robinson's book, A Street Called Home, which I love. It's one of my favorites. I use it with students a lot because it has so much that it speaks to and addresses in terms of neighborhoods, in terms of communities. And there's a lot of symbolism in it. So we looked at the book. It's that long pull-out book with the little flaps. And kids love that. They want to know what's up under the flaps. They want to know who the people are. But I get them to look specifically by asking questions as to why would the artist use certain things? Why is she using the stitching? Why is she using perhaps the buttons? So we talk about that. I give them time to discover some things. And then I tell them that they're going to use some materials that I use as an artist. So that's when I bring the fabric out. I don't show them anything that I do. So these were just a few. So as we had talked about community, I told them that they were going to take fabric. And I said, I'm bringing the same fabric that I use. I'm going in my drawers at home, I'm pulling out all my fabrics and bringing them in. The first thing that challenges them, though, are the patterns. The patterns, because they're not accustomed to mixing things up. I mix it up all the time. And so they're like, well, where's the brown? They're looking for a solid color. Where's the green? And I tell them, I said, when I work with these fabrics, I only see the color. I don't pay any attention to the pattern necessarily, not until the end, I may see it then. But that's what I'm going for. And so for me, it's really fun to watch them break through what their head is telling them, which, oh, I don't know how to do this, and then just pick it up and go for it. I said, just have fun, mix those patterns up. It's not going to look like a real house, and that's okay, because you're the artist and you get to choose what you're doing with this. So we've had a lot of fun. We did this particular project with grades 3 through 5, and these are just a few samples from the 5th grade that I brought along.
Would you be willing to pass those around?
Oh, sure. So it's really just taking fabric that has the sewing staple that for me is a sewing staple, heat and bond. So So it's an introduction of new materials for them. One, fabric, getting to use fabric. Secondly, having an adhesive that's not wet, it's dry, and it's heat activated. So trying to explain, we talk about that. The safety, because they're irons, we have 2 irons and on and on.
Can I touch your
But it's
phone?
those kinds of things that for me are, I guess, gratifying, being able to introduce new materials to students. And at the end, so I brought 2 pieces of my own to kind of give some idea of where the fabrics, how they work for me, and that's why I don't bring them to the classroom, because I don't want any student to say, I can't do that. That's not what I want them to do. I want them to have fun, because actually the fabric, I introduce it to them as collage, because that's what I did for many, many years, and it's still collage for me. And so that way, they are able to draw on the back of that, because it's a paper-backed adhesive. They can draw their images, cut them out. So it's also teaching them how to reverse. Because when you do that, especially if they choose to write, there's a reversal.
So the other thing you're trying to do is you put in would be to copy what you looked at.
Yeah, I never do. I never take them. So that's part of what we're doing this summer, or what we have done this summer, and I'm definitely enjoying your students showing me.
Well, bravo, that was wonderful. I've got questions.
Have you noticed since teaching this and mixing patterns and things, if the kids dressed any differently when they come to see you? Are they mixing their own colors differently?
No, I won't necessarily say that I've noticed that, because this has been a short stint. The summer program is very short, and we have other things to get on too. So we've only spent 2 class periods on this, and they initially started with their draft, which was a drawing, and then from there they transferred those ideas over to fabric. So no, I haven't.
Okay.
Good question, Bob.
Yeah, in terms of the influence and what I'm doing.
Like with those, do you have a reference that they work from, or is it something that you just kind of tell them what they're going for? Like, how did they come up with these like the ones they're holding up right now?
The ones that are being held up, those are mine.
Oh, okay.
That's my work.
Okay.
But what I was trying to show is the fact that I constantly mix fabrics, patterns, and color, all that. That's what I do. But
do you use a reference, or is it just something that you just come up with? You know how?
I have studied mass images forever. I continue to collect them on, Pinterest. But I think over time, it has kind of morphed for me to focus more on the shapes. The shapes are very important to me. The colors still continue to be important to me. So all of those things have kind of just come together over time.
Is that canvas that they're mounted on?
Yes, they're mounted on canvas. So actually I'm quilting the pieces. The sewing machine became my new tool, addition to my other things that were going on. Probably about 5 years ago. I was doing collage, had been doing collage mixed media for some time, and was adding fabric to those pieces on canvas. But eventually it was getting heavy with the fabric, and one day it just dawned on me, why don't you go the other way, and why don't you start working with fabric? And so I really just, in my mind, it was just simply switching from papers over to fabric. Still, to me, it's still the same thing. But the addition of the sewing machine has been very interesting for me, because I am actually using it as a drawing tool. So, yeah.
This expressive, isn't it?
Yes.
That's a question.
Comes out real nice how the sewing machine just, how you curving and straight lines and all that on the images that you're making.
Okay.
And I think they're very, very nice.
Oh, thank you.
And being an artist, don't you think, he was telling me that the spearheading was the so I can't get the word out. Machine.
Yes.
Yes, and it's so nice that the artist actually experiments
Yes.
with new techniques.
And I think even working with fabric with students, one of the things that comes up every time that I've done a class with students in fabric is that they may cut a shape that's not exactly the way they intended, But it's very forgiving because I tell them, I do the same thing all the time. So it gives me an opportunity to tell them, yeah, I do that myself. And this is how you can correct it. It's easy to patch it because it's heat activated. You just take another piece and lay it on top and it's done. So getting them, you know, not only the challenge of using the new material, but also seeing ways in which to work through those things that they find to be personally a challenge as they work in that.
Do you show them your work after you complete the project?
I don't show them the work. If I show them the work, it's at the end of the program.
They'll compare theirs against
Yeah.
yours. Yeah, but it would also, well, maybe, you know, if there's one or two kids that really got into it kind of thing, you know, you kind of,
Yeah, and my personal feeling is,
I get the,
I hear enough in the classroom, I think all of us, we hear enough of, I don't like this, or this is ugly,
I messed up.
or I can't. My response to I can't is you haven't tried, you haven't started, so how can you say I can't?
Megan
You haven't
just said,
done.
and I messed up, she
I
said.
messed
Yeah, we hear that a lot, so I don't want to introduce anything of mine. That's why I say if I bring it in, it's at the very end, the last day of class.
right.
I will share, and this is what I do.
Right.
But no, because I do not want there to be any comparison.
Yeah, no, I can.
I'm in the business of trying to build up and encourage them.
Right.
So that's, yeah, I don't
But
feel
at that
that's,
point, you've spent time saying, well, I messed up, I
Yes.
learned and whatnot, and
Yeah.
here's where I grew to.
yes, yes.
Wendy, thank you.
Uh-huh.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
What a beautiful gift to encourage children and encourage a way that they don't have to do the straight and the narrow. They can be themselves, experiment, be encouraged. That's beautiful. Well, Marty Brown, we have had you here for Conversations and Coffee and an exhibit, and we're just delighted you were back with us again. You've been what? You went to Ohio State University? Or you exhibited at Ohio State University?
Yeah.
You exhibited?
Yes.
And at the William Thomas Gallery,
That's
participating artist. And what, again, encouragement with children who are living lives of incarcerated mothers. We were supported by the Ford Foundation in this amazing gift. And you've been an instructor. What is this Arts and College Prep Academy?
That's a high school that out east
Uh-huh.
that Gigi Howard found, and I was there when founding Moriarty worked there as an artist. And I went back to school and got my
Okay,
degree.
let's hear from you. How wonderful.
Okay. She's talking about some things we did with incarcerated mothers in the show that traveled around from New York. I don't have all the details of that, but that was something I did with Capacity. The kids from ACPA helped make pieces that demonstrated how mothers in jail couldn't get to their babies. So it's traveled around the country, and it's a piece that was done back in, it's some years now. So it's been a 30-year span of me working with young people. And my first mission was to get out and do art gallery shows. And then, and after with all the rejection stuff you find as an artist, you kind of find what you're really here for. And one day when I was really frustrated because I looked at Dale Chihuly's work everywhere, and and I was just feeling I just didn't like this feeling of going everywhere and seeing his work in Franklin Park and in Seattle where my son lives and somewhere else. I mean, it was just this thought in my head, and I really got I felt this like I'm in competition thing. And I talked to my son, and he told me, get away from your art for a while. I mean, I'm telling you something that happened over a span of time, like in 3 seconds. And so what happened was, he said, get away from your art and ask God, what are you here for, what do you do, and who are you? Like, who am I? And I find myself in Franklin Park, looking at Dale Chihuly's work, and getting to know him, and understanding he was just an artist that made art, and everything just didn't pop, and everything wasn't blown up like it is now. But someone picked it and took it somewhere. But then, I met Todd Camp, the guy here, who was working at the King Arts Complex, and he was in transition. So I just wound up here at the Cultural Arts Center because I knew it was a place I knew it was, I'm hearing my wife say, slow down. I knew it was a place. She's with me all the time, even though she's not here right now. I seen this guy walking around doing a sweat walk. I said, that looks like Todd Camp over there at the park. And he had to come by and come in, and the lady at the desk was there. I forgot her name right now. Vasi, yeah, Miss Vasi. She's there, because you know, we're a small art community in Columbus, and you either know each other or you ignore each other. It's one or the other. You know, you kind of know each other. It's like, not so much, but, I came to this conclusion that Dale was a cool guy. I mean, it was just somebody I felt that way, because somehow we walk into this field of we're in competition, and we just can't enjoy other people's art. So in my revelation, I had the revelation that I have permission to enjoy Dale's art, not to feel that I'm in competition, not to feel that my art's not here. So I began to look at everything from another perspective of simply just look at what they're, you know, what it's all about. Not really, I don't even have to have an opinion. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, we're always made to feel like we have to have an opinion about somebody's stuff. We're drug into news to opinionate on things all the time, and we don't even got our own thoughts sometimes. So I was really looking for a way to find my own thoughts, and that's a lot to say about that. So my whole thing is, so Todd was here, and he asked me if I'd do a show, and then some people saw that I did a show here, and this is the funny thing. Some of the friends said, well, how did you get the show here? Only white people show here. You know, it's kind of funny, like you're thrown into this thing where only white people show or you can't show, and where you fit or don't fit, and you know, so it was like, it wasn't really about that. It was, and Todd was working at the King Center where only black people supposed to be showing there. So, and the truth is, you go wherever you go, you find struggles and good causes, and if you're going to commit or not. So the big thing for us, you know, with the arts, what's the name of it? As far as education, because it used to be under GCAC, artists in schools, and all of us kind of merged. And matter of fact, Tim Cass out there, he was also with Children of the Future, I think. And so this has been, before Arts in House, Children of the Future was another chance to work. And so this guy named Nicholas Hill that invited me one day, and I was on the verge of quitting a job that I worked nights to pay for my family and pay for my kids. But I wanted people to have to make art, whether you reject me or accept me or not. It's just something I have to do. But to get the chance to do it in a place with a bunch of kids, I'm just spreading the table and make families. So when we make an art, Malik's going to come up and tell you about the art because he thinks he's getting out of it by taking pictures. He's the youth apprentice. And this is Malik. He's going to come and tell us about himself. And so we brought art that relates to a lot of things, but I'll let Malik tell you maybe, and we'll start there.
Hi, my name is Malik Harrison, and we're doing this one right here. This is dealing with the food desert.
I'm going to bring it out closer. Okay. Oh, Jesus. We use the old frame.
By food desert, this is a guy named Mr. Chad. Mr. Chine. Yeah, this is Mr. Chine. Back during the after school program, he was working, and he was one of the camp leaders. And basically, he's from Chicago, and he was just telling some of the kids about like what he did, and like what he does in the community. And then he was telling them about like a food desert, explaining, saying that food desert is like lack of resources, like to grab food on your living. Yeah, and he was just letting people know about, like letting the kids know that there was like no resources like to get like meat, getting meat from a corner store. You wouldn't want to do that. Like no grocery store, just knocking out all grocery stores and stuff around the neighborhood. And then like they had to go to like corner stores to like get milk, meat, and you wouldn't want to do that. So we decided to like have him in here, show all the different foods that he liked to do, and then like also show like
Malik is always going to stand in back. He's a gifted genius. He's an artist that can correct my drawings all the time. He'll show me what I lack, and he stays in the back, and he will stay in the back if we let him. But
You did a great job.
so what happened here? We mixed it all like this is Chime, like you said. He's from Chicago. He knew he's a social activist poet, and and he's here in Columbus, and he's in agriculture, and he learned to dress like this all the time because he says either black men only dress up when they go to funerals or something else or go to jail for court. And and the lady said he can wear jogging clothes. And to the kids, he said he wants to walk around. He's something like this tall, and he always talks with a deep voice. He talked about food deserts, and he started vegetarian. So we actually got food in, and we tried spaghetti squash and cooked egg rolls and stuff, and cut vegetables. And he's ready to talk again.
Every Friday when we had our 4th and 5th graders, we'll have them try different foods, try different things that they never really learned like how to cook themselves. So we had them do the squash, the spaghetti squash, and then next week we had them do like wrap their own egg rolls, and then try like different fruits, vegetables that they weren't particularly like eat on a daily basis.
So they made the fruit, and we cut it with used yoga mat, and this is the old frame. And so I drew Chime and Malik corrected it and finished painting it. And this is from a painting I had back at home. I just took and whatever it was and painted it black, and so that fit that scene. So this is what we did was we took all the group leaders and social workers that work at our site, and every time they come, we try to honor them as the teachers and connect the family, sense of family. So when the kids come in the room, the elements they do, you'll see they're kind of included in, but we took this chance to do the collaboration piece, that we collaborate with teachers, you collaborate with the class, and you collaborate with everyone. And he didn't quite understand what we were doing at first, but after it was all said and done, he's kind of asked us to come work with him. But as you know, as you start doing your own work, you get busy, and you don't have time but to do what you got to do, right, Miss Wendy? So we're going to move through the rest of these. I don't know how much time you got, Miss Shaughnessy, and just tell you about the rest of them.
We've got about 1 minute.
Okay.
Great.
Yes. Yeah, the yoga mat gets the puffy feel, but we harden it with the pour on because the kids can cut yoga.